Yo, what is up, guys? It's Cone, back here again today with another video. Let's talk about tampering in the NBA. Now, if you don't know what tampering is basically when players and or front office members make illegal contact with other guys on other teams that are under contract. So, for example, if Sam Presti went to Luka Doncic and said, hey, I want you to come to the Thunder, you should come play with the Thunder, that's tampering. You're not allowed to do that because Luka's under a contract and Sam Presti is a league executive. You can't do that. So, why are we talking about tampering? Because news just broke from Woj saying that apparently the Chicago Bulls, Toronto Raptors, New Orleans Pelicans, and Miami Heat are under investigation for tampering, specifically in the sign and trades of Lonzo Ball to the Bulls and Kyle Lowry to the Miami Heat. Why does that matter? Because if they're found guilty, this could lead to a number of things. First of all, if it's kind of a lighter punishment, it could lead to fines, which isn't that big of a deal, or maybe even forfeiting draft picks. We've seen a precedent for this before last season when the Milwaukee Bucks and Kings engaged in a sign and trade before they were allowed to for Bogdan Bogdanovic. The Bucks ended up losing a second round pick, and I believe this upcoming NBA draft, so I think the 2022 draft, if I remember correctly, is going to have 59 draft picks because the Bucks that second round pick just disappeared from them. That was their fine for tampering, but it was kind of like small, mainly because they didn't end up getting Bogdan Bogdanovic. He was never really in the loop about it. He didn't really want to go to the Bucks anyways. Ended up going to the Hawks, so they kind of gave them a little slap on the wrist and were like, hey, don't do that again. So this could lead to something bigger because these trades are basically already finalized. Kyle Lowry has mentioned multiple times that he's a part of the Heat. While it's not official, Lonzo has clearly kind of acknowledged that he's part of the Chicago Bulls. So these trades are basically already done. They've been done for days now. These were two of the first moves that broke the second that the moratorium period hit. If you didn't know, that's the period when teams and players can negotiate but not officially sign things. These things happened immediately. The second that 6 p.m. Eastern time when the moratorium started hit, Lonzo was on the Bulls and Kyle Lowry's a member of the Heat. Like the second it hit, those were like the first two moves that happened within like 50 seconds. So, the league probably has a pretty good reason to suspect that there was tampering here, that before that moratorium period hit, these teams were engaging with each other on a sign and trade with a player that wasn't under contract for a certain team. So that's not allowed. What could that mean? If they find it severe enough, these deals could become void, and they just didn't happen. Meaning that the Bulls would lose out on getting Lonzo Ball, a huge piece for their future, and the Heat would lose out on Kyle Lowry, a guy who could help them become a contender and return to the finals like they went just a couple seasons ago. That's a huge deal. That would literally break the NBA. And I don't remember a time where we've seen that. If I don't remember, there's probably a time where this happened. I just don't remember it because that was definitely before my time as a fan, unless I'm blanking on something. So that would be a massive deal. And of course, I'm sure you get it. So does tampering actually matter? And in this case, I really don't think it does. These teams shouldn't be penalized for something that, in my opinion, was already going to happen. Lonzo Ball and Zach LaVine are friends. Of course they want to play together. And in addition, the New Orleans Pelicans and Chicago Bulls were reportedly already talking about a trade at the trade deadline. So there was already kind of a framework in place. So leading up to the moratorium period, when the signing trades are technically allowed, it was going to happen. It's not like it was something that just came out of the blue, and if they didn't talk with each other in that tampering period, it wasn't going to happen. It was going to happen always. So they shouldn't be penalized for that. Same thing with the Miami Heat and the Toronto Raptors. Kyle Lowry was always going to end up on the Miami Heat, it felt like. It didn't matter what other teams did because other teams, I promise you, could have done the same thing the Heat did if they tampered because like every team does it. There was already talk at the trade deadline of those two teams negotiating that. So there was already a framework in place. Why does it matter? A player should be allowed to negotiate things with other teams the second their season ends. When the Pelicans and the Raptors their season ended, they didn't make the playoffs, whatever, those guys should now be allowed to go negotiate with teams. They should be allowed to talk to guys. That's not the case, but it should be. Because at that point, your season's over. Why does it matter? Why is it unfair for another team to go get a shot at you? And why is it's unfair if the player doesn't get a chance to go see what's out there for them on the market? A player shouldn't be pigeonholed to not having any conversation with other teams until some arbitrary period hits at 6 p.m. Eastern time. It's dumb. It doesn't make sense. And I don't think the Bulls or Heat should lose out on those two-star guys because of these arbitrary rules. Especially since, like I said, tampering happens with every single team. It wasn't just these teams with their signing trades. Almost every single signing that came out, like there were reports that guys were going to sign with certain teams before the period hit. We knew like the day before where certain guys were going. That's just the way the NBA works. That shouldn't be considered tampering. It technically is, as far as I know. I'm not 100% sure because the tampering criteria is super up and down. It's hit or miss, and clearly it doesn't apply to every team because these two teams are being investigated when I guarantee you pretty much every single other team, except the Thunder, if Adam Silver, if you're seeing this video, Thunder did nothing. The Thunder are clean, no tampering whatsoever. Like every team does it. It happens. It's part of the NBA. Now, there are certain things I think shouldn't be allowed with tampering. The NBA should crack down on having teams be able to negotiate with players like while they're under contract. For example, if my pre-mentioned example where Sam Presti goes to Luka Doncic and goes, hey, I want you to be part of the Thunder while he's still under contract, that's not allowed. That makes sense why the NBA wouldn't want that to happen. But with free agency stuff, chill out. Guys are going to go where they're going to go. No matter what you do, you can't stop and you can't 100% ensure that like LeBron James isn't going to go up to Russell Westbrook, for example, and be like, I want you to play with me. Do you want to play with me? Do you want to team up in Los Angeles? You can't stop that. They're two guys. They're going to go have dinner together. They're going to have a private conversation. That shouldn't be considered tampering. And I'm not 100% sure that it is. I don't think it is when players have conversations. But like even an example where Draymond Green says on national television when he was with TNT doing some coverage after the Warriors were eliminated in a playoff game or play-in game, he just mentioned Devin Booker and said he's like a guy I would love to play with. That shouldn't be considered tampering. That's lame. Why is he getting a $50,000 fine for that? Tampering really doesn't matter that much unless it's in those situations where, like, for example, I believe the Los Angeles Lakers and Rob Pelinka were talking to Paul George while he was still a member of the team, trying to facilitate a trade. They fined him for that. That makes sense. You can't do that. Don't take away Lonzo Ball and Kyle Lowry from places that they were already going to go, regardless of tampering. I'm saying all this, even the teams haven't been convicted yet, but I'm about 100% sure that something's going to happen because the fact that those deals happened immediately, I'm about 100% sure that those teams were tampering. But every team does it. So why does it only apply to these two teams? Why does it only apply in this scenario? Is there something about sign and trades that makes it particularly like upsetting to the league office? Maybe, I guess I just don't have a good enough understanding maybe, but it feels weird and off. Let me know what you think about this. I really don't feel like it matters that much. Tampering's kind of lame. There are certain things the NBA can crack down on, but other things, just let it go. Chill out. It's the player empowerment era. Like, guys are going to go where they want to go. These were going to happen. Don't take this away from these teams. I guess I'll make a video letting you guys know what happens with this investigation. It's just tampering's always been such a weird subject in the NBA because it doesn't apply to everyone. It was a huge deal last offseason when the Bucks had it happen with Bogdanovich because that, like I said, we don't typically see that. The league kind of just turns a blind eye to tampering most of the time. But, you know, we'll see what happens. I appreciate you guys watching. Let me know what you think about tampering in the comment section below. I will see you guys later. Real One Say back.